you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
Dr. Joanne and I are so excited to welcome Dr. Chrissie Ott to this episode. She is a physician, certified coach, and the host of Solving for Joy podcast. Chrissie is passionate about helping physicians rediscover purpose and fulfillment, and she's also leading the upcoming Physician Coaches Summit to bring our community together in powerful ways. Welcome to the Create Meaning in Medicine podcast, Chrissie.
Thank you both so much for having me. It is an honor to be in community with you guys and to get to visit with you on this podcast today.
And I would love to hear from you. I love the name of your podcast called Solving for Joy. And what does that mean to you, Chrissie?
I love the idea that we are all solving for joy, whether we're doing really highly adaptive functional things or doing very dysfunctional maladaptive things. The ultimate goal that we are all usually trying to do is solve for joy, which is different than just happiness. It's different than gratification. I understand joy as the convergence of meaning, alignment, and delight. So that is what I am chasing for myself and what I am hoping to create more connections to for my clients and the people who I get to have the pleasure of impacting.
Chrissie, I'm so happy to have you here. I have been listening to your podcast, and I do my little, in quotations, research slash, what do I call it, Aaron? Stalking. Yes. So I've done in like, oh my goodness, this is talk about alignment and such alignment with what Aaron and I are doing here. And it got my attention, the title of your podcast. And I don't know, maybe because I'm also a psychiatrist, and right, like we give this meaning to these big words, and sometimes society defines them for us. And I love defining, and I love that your definition, meaning, alignment, and delight. I love that.
Yes, and it converges so nicely with creating meaning in medicine here as well. Yes. I do feel like purpose and meaning do so much for us in terms of embodied fulfillment and the energy to keep moving forward.
Yes, I love it. And because you're also doing the work, what do you believe are some obstacles that physicians go through in their path of finding joy, whether it's in their careers or their lives?
Such a juicy question. Cognitive distortions come to mind, top of list. The temptation of especially an overworked, over-demanded brain to do energy-saving things cognitively and emotionally, like black or white thinking, either or thinking, disregarding what's positive and really having more negativism and cynicism accessible. So those cognitive habits are a huge thing. I really enjoyed interviewing an author recently who wrote a book called The Joy Reset, MC McDonald. And she talks about joy resistance in that book. It's a dark little book about joy. I happily recommend this fabulous read. It is short and dynamic and juicy. And I think that there's a lot of joy resistance in the world of medicine, concentrated in medicine, I would say. And that feeling of, if these things are this bad, how can joy also exist? And yet it does. And recognizing that we have a spectrum of experience, even in the midst of very difficult political or familial or health crises, there is still that perfect little hummingbird that visited my front yard last evening.
That's so relevant, Chrissie. And in a couple of episodes, Joanne and I recorded an episode about holding celebration and despair
at the same time.
And I love how you point that out, and with that joy focus. And yet, when you look at the state of medicine right now, it can seem overwhelmingly dark and disparaging. And yet, when we look for those little moments of hope and joy, they're really there. We just sometimes have to look harder for them. Well, speaking of bringing joy and hope, you have an upcoming retreat, the Physician Coaches Summit. And what gap are you hoping to fill for the physician coaches in that space?
So some of my favorite humans on the planet are physician coaches. We already know there is a ton of badassery because we got here. And when we got here and we decided to go back and support others, I think that there is just an extra layer of, I want to know these people. I don't want to call anybody a hero because I think that it actually is kind of dehumanizing. But holding space for other physicians has such an impact that it is, first of all, a ginormous honor to help hold space for this community of dynamic, creative healers doing dynamic, creative work. So I have attended this summit, which is really like the perfect intersection of retreat and conference for me for the last 3-4 years now. And it was Kathy Steppen's brainchild, the very beginning, fabulous Dr. Kathy Steppen. And she asked me last year if I would be interested and willing to take the reins. And I could not say no to such a deep honor, didn't want to say no. And so I've been planning my very first big in-person event. So I will tell you the gap, if any, to fill, I think, is about bringing this community together in person. Because when we are in person, we have different connections individually. We have different connections with small groups of 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. And then we have these collective experiences, all of which are memories, all of which are implanting themselves in our limbic system, in our hippocampus, and having these embodied healing experiences and self-regulatory experiences that we will then carry forward to our clients or to other coaches that we teach and impact and all the way around. I sent out a little marketing email, loving nudge, yesterday that was about the nerdy math of all of our cross-pollination. And that when we go from 31 attendees just to 32 attendees, the coefficient math actually takes the potential interactions from 2 billion up to 4.5 billion or something ridiculous like that. It was very, very nerdy, but I could not be more delighted with it.
I love nerdiness. And I wanted to say you're speaking to my heart. I remember at the peak of COVID, and I had been a coach already for some time, but I had finished another certification during that time that a lot of us did. And so got to meet a lot of other physician coaches. And I remember I was so excited. It was, and I defined it similar that you did. And we are unicorns. We are doing the work of medicine and we recognize the struggles and we want to help. And I'm going to tell you something, not a popular comment. I was disappointed about how maybe it's our doctor programming, because as physicians, it's kind of individualistic work, right? Like we go in, we see our patients, whatever your specialty, have your patient. And I admire the doctors who work in teams and they share cases, or they have a difficult case and they go at it together, because that's what I figured that we would be doing. Like if like you said, if we are unicorns, why aren't we helping each other out or coming together, which is part of why Erin and I are doing this podcast, and we're bringing awesome guests like yourself. And I am hopeful and happy with events like yours, where we gather for what's the word I'm looking for? Like a bigger goal. And how can we learn from each other, help each other out, promote each other, versus this unfortunate, sometimes it's like a little bit of a competition. And yes, of course, we're all doing something similar. And I'm always so glad, and I been following Kathy as well. I think actually we were both featured in the same article in USA Today, and loved it because she's done so much of this work, and right, like pat yourself in the back for having the courage to taking it on, because I know it's not easy, but yet so important. So I wanted to say that because I challenge all of us doing the work to do better, to collaborate more, to share experiences. And anyway, so I just wanted to say that because this is important. And again, I'm celebrating you, and I hope that you're celebrating yourself and feeling proud of yourself. Both Erin and I have done smaller retreats. I can't imagine here at that level.
Thank you.
Like how much
thank
work
you,
that is.
Joanne. You know, it is a lot of work, and Kathy has been very clear that it's a lot of work. And also, I didn't know until I waded into it, how much work or how much financial risk is involved. And I would love to just peel back the curtain as much as possible so that there aren't really no illusions left. I want people to know what it's like to put on a big event, because I think that's the way we learn. I'm going to give an example right here, because anybody in the earshot of my voice, please know that you never have to book as many rooms as you hope people will come. Cut that number by 50% and don't harm yourself, because now I'm having a little bit of mind drama about making sure that I fulfill the minimum room numbers so that I'm not personally liable for a 5-digit situation. So that is pretty scary to a lot of us, but especially, for somebody who's the breadwinner in their household and, is not coming at this with the depth of resources that some physicians might come with. So I don't feel at all sorry for myself. I feel more determined than ever. And I want this lesson learning to be available to anybody who is out there and beginning to think about planning their own event. Keep yourself safe. There's so many more lessons that I'm looking forward to sharing over the time, but it's really fun learning. It's really fun.
And you talk about this in-person experience, both of you shared. And I know as a board member of my local medical society, when we started getting back to in-person events, there's just magic in those in-person events. And, we've also hosted our own retreats. And the ability of individuals, especially women, to be in space together, in community together, in person, a safe space, can be absolute magic. And so I just want to also honor the work that you're putting into this, because not everybody is stepping into that role. And I think everybody probably underestimates what does it take to run a retreat. And it's a lot of work.
100%.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a kid who doesn't understand, I'm raising, my last of my young adult kids, and they have no idea what is it like to run a household until they move out and they're running their own household. And so all you can do is say, I don't even know how to explain what all the work is that I'm doing from your perspective. And from those of us who can benefit from attending, it's going to be an amazing experience. And I have talked to Chrissie. I think my calendar's clear and I may be able to go to my first physician coaching summit. And it's my first one I'm going with other physician coaches because I've held my own retreats for my clients. And so it'll be nice to go to a retreat where I'm hoping to help support you in it. And also as a guest.
2.5 years ago, Erin gifted me a spot at her first retreat. And it was your second retreat. It was super amazing. It was so wonderful. And I cannot wait to reunite and just think now about all of the things that you were doing to plan that retreat, hold space and plan activities. In the Physician Coaching Summit, I'm looking forward to these 3 embodied exercises or 3 embodied experiences. There will be more than 3, but these 3 are the ones that I'm planning. So one is a full moon yoga nidra. The first night we get there on Friday, it happens to be a full moon, and we have Rashmi Shram, who is an incredible physician coach and meditation instructor and more. And she led a yoga nidra in the first physician coaching summit that I attended, and it was so memorable. It was amazing. So we're going to have this beautiful yoga lawn and be literally in the desert under the full moon for this guided meditation experience all together. And then the next night, we're having a private sound bath experience. So again, this very unique, shared, vibrational, embodied experience, along with, the folks who are teaching us specific techniques, like there's some somatic experiencing. And then the last night, we're actually having some dance. So we'll have a dance party. There will be some like line dance led by some folks and some somatic leaders who are doing other things, but just so excited to have fun, to soak in tubs together. Some of my favorite memories are showing up to walk the labyrinth early in the morning and finding one or two other colleagues there, or everybody meets up at the pool in their terry cloth robes for late night pizza and wine one night. So many unique memories for this community to fill themselves up with, and then go back into the ways that they resource others.
I love it. Erin and I went to a retreat a while back with one of our coaches. We were at the Dominican Republic, and it was this incredible house, and they had a labyrinth, right? Like Erin, like it was such a powerful experience. I'm so glad that you guys have that. It's leading something in the labyrinth, like teaching people how they can use it. And I know Erin recreated one in one of her events.
I spray painted a labyrinth in my backyard when I hosted a day retreat a year ago, September. And it was a complex endeavor. And I learned a lot about half circles and straight lines and measurements and sticks and strings. It was so much fun to create it. And then because that labyrinth walk was so amazing and beautiful that I had experienced as a retreat attendee, I then led my attendees through this labyrinth walk, rounding barefoot on the grass in this beautiful space with the birds. And it's hard to explain what a labyrinth walk can do for you until you've done it. And I didn't realize that there's a labyrinth on site. So even more excitement if somebody's thinking about going. I'm wondering, Chrissie, like, why are they not going to want to miss out on this?
Yeah.
And who's it for specifically?
It is specifically for physician coaches, whether you are certified or not, whether you have been doing it for 6 months or 6 years, whether you are an academic in organization coach or an entrepreneurial coach, or somebody who is an informal coach, somebody who coaches faculty, for example, or coaches trainees, for example. I welcome really all who are coach aligned, or even if you're coach curious, maybe you've been coached and there's a tiny little part of you that thinks, I feel like this is kind of my space, even though I'm not quote unquote credentialed. So there's not a super strong gatekeeping mechanism. I'm calling to physician coaches who self-identify. There could be, the rare APP who really belongs in this room. But right now, our focus is physician coaches.
Thank you. And thank you for pointing that out, because I can see our perfectionistic brain. I get so many questions because I've been coaching for so long, and I also coach physicians. That then, because I love that coaching curious, then they ask, what certification do I need? And what school do I go to? Like, it's okay. Like, you don't need to have. I have so many certifications, and I'm not necessarily proud of them, because I think half of them I was like me avoiding the work. It's like one more thing I need to be like really ready. I'm like, you've been a psychiatrist. I am psychodynamically trained, which most psychiatrists are not. I think I can coach. I think I'm qualified. And so many of us, and I always say for physicians, we know how to interview, we know how to listen, we know how to be empathic. And that's half of coaching. It's then let's just reframe more, and like the different, right? Like there's more of that challenge, but so many of us that are curious, right? I love that's a good venue. And I always say, in addition, especially hearing you talk about all these other fabulous experiences, that we sometimes need to leave our homes for several days in a row. just that is a gift that we can give ourselves and be with other like-minded women who are also doing this work, who, right? Like, we're not following this very narrow path of medicine. We're expanding, we're thinking about different ways to serve for ourselves, for our patients, our families, clients. And like Erin and I always talk about the power of community. So I don't know, I'm like feeling it all over my body, like how neat this event is going to be.
Thank you for that. I want to point out that it's open to physician coach men and women, although it does turn out to be 95% women every single time. And I hear you about the certifications. I feel blessed by my coaching education, but at the same time, there's such a subtle but important mind shift, right? Between I desire this education because of what it actually will offer me versus I must acquire this certification to feel adequately not imposterish to do the work that I feel called to do.
Yes, you said what my brain was thinking. Thank you for saying it so clearly.
Yes,
and I also want to acknowledge the individuals we coach are so complex. And for myself, in less than a week, I'm leaving for England to go to a trauma conference led by the, Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. I'm so excited. A training by Gabor Mate is included. From my perspective, it's also important we have to be well qualified to serve the individuals we want to serve because their lives can be so complicated. And for myself, and I think what I know of both of you being high achievers, and yet I also want to honor you are serving your clients so well by having such high standards for yourself and your education, because who knows what that one thing from that one certification that serves that one client in just the right way, they also deserve that. So there's always two ways of looking at it. And I just want to honor and appreciate that. I think we all have that desire to not be stumped by a coaching client. We want to be able to serve them at the highest level. And just like we don't stop getting CME credits as a practicing physician, many of us in coaching continue to get educated. And I've got 3 certifications myself, and it's like, okay, what's next?
Lifelong learners. Yeah. Lifelong learners. Speaking of CME, we have CME that we're partnering with Pinnacle over. So I'm excited to share that is definitely one of the ways that plenty of us are hoping to spend our CME funds this year.
That's important too, especially this time of the year that we're like, I have CME money, what amazing thing I can do versus like another, not that it's not good. I went to a psychiatry conference recently. It was great. I was reminded of a lot of things, but I'm like so used to this coaching world and personal development. I was like you said, where's the meditation? Where's the dancing?
Feels like conference. Where's the retreat part? Yes,
exactly. So good. I wanted to ask you, because again, talking about this work that we're doing to help, and I love how you talk about joy and fulfillment. What are some practical tools that you recommend for when you're coaching to find more of that joy and fulfillment?
I am a huge fan of going back to values, and I have an exercise that I call the 4 V's. So very briefly, after doing a reflective values exercise where you recognize your 4 core values or 3 core values, you also then identify your vision. And so that's a little bit of future self work. It's a little bit of deep listening, but a vision for yourself, for your family, for all of the ripples and levels of ripples that you impact. And then I ask people to think about their verbs. What do you actually want to be doing? Is it practicing medicine? Is it teaching? Is it manual labor on the beach? Like, what are the verbs that actually light you up? And what are the vibes that you want to feel while doing it, so that there's also a qualitative aspect to that? It's one way to initiate writing a personal mission statement. And I find that having a through line for my clients that go, they can always return to, helps them stay on a path that's true to them, so that at some future point, looking back at the life lived, they feel aligned and delighted by the meaning that they created.
Wow. I love that. I love values work too, but I had never heard it like that. So neat. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you've been coaching for a while, Chrissie. How do you see physician coaching evolving in the upcoming years? And what role do you see collaboration and community playing?
I, first of all, adore creative collaborations. I think that cross-pollination aspect that we mentioned early in the conversation is such a potent way to stay inspired and engaged and on our own growth edge. So I hope that it will continue to play a larger and larger role. I'm part of the Charm Coach Collective, which is a group of primarily academic centers and well-being leaders that have embedded coaching programs, or they're working toward having embedded coaching programs. So on a macro level, I see an increasing number of coaching programs for clinicians embedded in large institutions, and that is becoming increasingly normalized, legitimized, and supported by a vastly growing body of evidence that this is, in fact, the most effective intervention we've found to address occupational distress and the syndrome we abbreviate as burnout. I do also see people using professional funds and CME more and more, and there is some pushback, I think, at organizational and association level, because money is still scarce in the healthcare system in certain ways, especially around expenditures for well-being. So if an individual physician has freedom to use CME for coaching, I just encourage it. I encourage you to use what you have to fund what you want, and to think of it not as an expense, but as an investment. And more people are getting that message that investing in yourself, you're the asset, you are the engine of your life, whether it is your professional life or your personal life. And that coaching is this beautiful intersection of mental health optimization and professional development without the stigma of certain, more pathologizing parts of the mental health model. So that was a lot of words, guys, but that's my take. That's my hot take.
So well said. And I love it all again. And speaking directly to my heart, because we talk about that too, how, we've had several episodes about depression and mental health in physicians or healthcare overall. And we just recently, actually today is, I might say it incorrectly, but National Physician Suicide Awareness Day. Sorry if I said the title incorrectly. Right. And of course, we'll publish this a few weeks later, but we recorded an episode on suicide. And I say that, yes, and again, as a psychiatrist, I would never minimize the need for psychotherapy and psychiatry. And yet there's so much that we can do in terms of awareness and prevention via coaching for overall mental and emotional well-being. So thank you for saying it so eloquently.
Absolutely. That analogy just sparked for me, like if you were a surgeon, you would never deny the importance, validity, and right to exist of surgery, and you would acknowledge many issues are resolved with tools other than surgery.
Or if you're building a house and you've got a saw and a hammer, who says you don't need a Dremel tool or a router? And oftentimes when I've been advocating for additional services, including well-being and coaching, even when an organization has an EAP, even when they have access to therapists, because what I've seen is you can have two tools, a prescriber and a therapist working with an individual, and you add one more tool in coaching, and that just changes the recipe to move huge changes. I've seen it in such rapid fire, and it may be the coaching may not be as effective if those other tools aren't being used as well. And can we get beyond that? Well, it's either therapy or coaching, or it's either psychiatry or coaching. It's like we can all play nicely together, especially with well-trained coaches who understand physicians, especially peer coaching, and who understand trauma and aren't going to be doing, damage. But some people talk about the unregulation of coaching. And yet, just like using medications off label, there's many things that are used that don't have this specific rule set. And if we're too fearful to try that modality, we can be missing out on a whole bunch of benefit from that's my perspective of what I've seen as a coach.
It can be complementary. Yes. I love the analogies.
I know we love analogies, which makes it even more important, the work that you're doing and bringing coaches together. So, right, like to talk about all of this and that creative collaboration, like you said so beautifully. One question that we like to ask our guests, because the title of our podcast is Create Meaning in Medicine, Rewriting the Rules for Women Physicians. And you've spoken so many beautiful things of how you're creating meaning and rewriting the rules. But what would be kind of your favorite thing that you want to share in how you're doing that?
This is a brand new thought. I actually had this pop into my head last week. It is that I am practicing job polyamory. So if you're familiar with much around polyamory, I mean, the idea is you may have a primary partner, you may not, but many people have a primary partner and they have sweeties that are not their primary partner because there is a recognition. P.S. I am not in a polyamorous relationship at all, but for job, yes. Yes, your main squeeze is not going to meet all your needs, right? Either for expression or what you want to receive. And I may have taken it to an extreme. I have about a dozen jobs right now. Erin, this is a chronic problem for this Enneagram type 3 person. But I also revel and delight in rewriting the rules and deciding I will do this on my own terms in ways that maximize my joy. Because when I am maximizing my joy, I am of the most joyful service to this world. And this world needs more of us to be a joyful service.
I'm in love with all of those words.
As am I. And for our listener who may not be familiar with you or this is their first time meeting you, Dr. Chrissie Ott, where can they find you?
You can find me at chrissieottmd.com. You can find out about a few different things that I do, and including the podcast. I would love to make sure everybody who wants to know about the summit can find the summit at thephysiciancoachingsummit.com. We are absolutely still welcoming attendees, and I am available. Reach out anytime.
And we will put those in the show notes.
Thank you, Chrissie. What a beautiful conversation. And I love all the alignment and all your wording of creating more joy, and for all of us physicians, and the importance of coaching and bringing coaches together in your summit. And I cannot wait to see what else you're gonna create, and would love to be more involved. And right, like the alignment it's so amazing here. So thank you, and I hope our audience benefited from this as much. I have a ton of notes. This is one that I will definitely go back and listen to with my nerdy brain on. So thank you. So neat.
What a gift to be here. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you for being sisters on the path.
Yes, thank you. And with that, stay tuned. Our next episode is coming right up.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.